Okay, so we're going to continue with our coding of Retro Amazon. And the first thing, we got a to-do list of things that are on the immediate agenda, what we need to accomplish. And the first one is we're going to introduce a new dependency called React Toastify. And this is kind of a fun dependency. If I go ahead and maybe we just start off with look of React Toastify and take a look at the website for React Toastify. And you can kind of see these little toasts, if you call them, right? These little, just little sliding notifications of like, yes, you did something, no, you didn't. There's an icon, and then they pop off the screen, right? So this is an animation thing, and how we're going to use it is we're going to bring in this React Toastify, and we're going to say book deleted or user logged in, however, whatever messages you just want to kind of say, hey, good job, you did something, or no, you didn't. You know, now I don't really want to use these for like form validation, right? But if a user successfully does something like logs in, you know, and it navigates them to another page, you know, you might get a little welcome Toastify, or if they delete something, you know, maybe you get a little delete message. So, and so you can kind of click in the docs to get to this React Toastify introduction. And there's a lot of settings on this. And so one of the first things you'll see is that there's going to be a container, and the container element will be where on the page, you know, as if any other element, where on that page that element renders, along with some settings. And then to actually call the toast, which is, I don't know exactly why they call it a toast, but we'll, you know, it is what it is. To call the toast, there's a function called toast. And, you know, you can mess with all these settings: top center, warning, dark theme, 5-second auto close, and then show toast. And again, you can kind of come on here and customize what this stuff looks like. Of course, to change the message, there's your little text right here. So I would encourage you, as I'm going to introduce this to you, I would encourage you to kind of hit this website and tinker and bring these in into your app and just customize them how you see fit. So if I back up here, you can see the dependency is a pretty simple install on our front end. Again, this is a front end dependency, obviously a React dependency. So I'm going to go ahead and npm install React Toastify. And then I'm going to go into my app.jsx. Am I streaming? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. There's my app.jsx, and there's a few things to bring in. The one that's easy to forget is the CSS file. So there's two import statements here. I'm going to import the React toast container and the function toast from React Toastify. And I'm going to import the CSS, import React Toastify distribution CSS. Now, where do I want my toast container to go? Again, this is where it's at on the page. Kind of flexible here, and as you saw in the docs, there's a lot of settings to tell exactly where the toast goes. You know, position of top center, bottom left. So if I change my toast, now it's down there. So I don't know that where you actually put the tag matters as much, because again, we got some settings inside of the element. to kind of change that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put my toast container inside of my main tag. And you're going to notice that here's my toast message. Now what's kind of interesting is that this is toast.success, but I can change it, right? So I can do a toast info, and it becomes a toast.info. Okay, so there's another way of setting the theme of dark. So what we'll do here is we're basically, I'm going to write a function to then call this toast method. So I'm gonna make my own function called show toast, and in my show toast method, it's gonna call the toast, and the reason being is well, I guess maybe I don't necessarily need it, but let's go ahead and do a show toast. Function show toast. And I'm going to accept a message. Now, if I kind of back up on my header, I got a couple options here that my a message and a type, right? So if I'm writing a method, I want to accept a message and a type. I kind of like this method header. And let's just leave it at that. So obviously the custom message is going to be whatever you want to say. And then the type, well, we saw the types. The types were info. Here's the type: info, success, warning, error, and default. Right? So maybe when you delete the book, well, there it goes. We would say book deleted for 5 seconds, and then it goes away. So show toast is my function to simply call this little pop-up window, and I'm going to pass that method down to my book list, because ultimately that's where I'm deleting. Show toast equals show toast. That's where I'm deleting my book. And again, I'm taking a message and a type. So 2 strings inside of that function. If I go to book list, let's common mistake I saw a lot last week, and I go fast, so it's my bad on this, is that you got to have these curlies in here because you're doing destructuring, right? So we bring in the show toast function here. And ultimately, I'm going to take my response.data, and that's going to be my message. So I'm going to show toast, and it's going to be my response data message. I think that's going to say book deleted or whatever it may be, success. Yeah, so the question was, yeah, the green box is because it's a type of success. So it'll be a green box. And then whatever the data comes back, that's my message, which that's my message from my back end. And I kind of forget if my back end is sending a dot message or if it's sending data. This actually might crash because I don't remember exactly how the data is coming from my back end. But let's go ahead and nonetheless take a look. So let's see the error message or if it works. So now if I run this thing and I boot it up, I'm going to need to log in and submit. If I go down to Kill a Mockingbird, click on delete, and there it says book deleted. And that's a super simple dependency to bring in, and that's kind of a neat little feature. Now, of course, you know, you look at the settings and you figure out if you want this thing to be top center. Of course, here's your position of top center. I didn't necessarily like that top center. You know, I kind of like another position of, well, bottom right maybe. So position of bottom right, and here's all your settings, right? Draggable of true, theme of dark, you know, whatever settings you want to put on there. Yes, Connor? So I'm going to do position of bottom right.
For some reason I don't get that message.
And if I go back to my app, JSX, position bottom right, save it up. We're logged in. Okay, I'm running out of my repeats here, which is fine. It doesn't matter a whole lot, but let's just delete one more. How to code number 5, how to code 5th edition, delete. Okay, now what is your message? You don't have to have the same message as I do. That doesn't even make any sense. Book blah 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 defeated or deleted, you know? Maybe you put the title in there. Okay? It doesn't have to delete exactly how I delete, but that's just the gist of the dependency. Okay, so next thing to go ahead and do is add a book item component. So we'll go ahead in our book list. Instead of mapping a bunch of cards, we'll map a book item. And so in our components, I have a book list. Let's go ahead and map a book item. Okay, and temporarily I'll cut my div here and paste that into my book item and just comment that out for now. And bring in my book item from book item. Check. And now on my book list, I'll bring in for each book, we're going to map a book item and send down the book object. Book equals book, and I need a key. And we can see now there's just a bunch of book items, so our component is working. If I bring back this, and I can bring my book in here, and I'm probably going to need to send a function down on book delete as well, but let's go ahead and delete that H1. And let's send down a on book delete function. So on book delete equals on book delete. Now I should be able to delete the key here. since the key's on the parent now, I think. Let me save that. Okay, as I inspect my console, no, it does still want my, okay, no, if I click here, here, okay, console is free, log out, log in, clear my console. Okay, just in general, I like that workflow of setting it up in one component and then breaking it down into smaller components as needed. And it is a pretty common thing to have a list component and then individual items in a list. So we brought in React Toastify, took care of that. We added a book item component, took care of that. Next is to refactor our URL into our .env. And those were some error messages as I was in between. Let's go ahead and bring in the .env package. npm i.env. And so now we have .env brought in on our front end as well as our back end. And now in our root, new file, you can actually have different env files. We could do a .env for local. There's also a .env for production. It was brought to my attention that along the way of refactoring the delete, that it no longer deletes. Now, what I'm not sure of, let's just try deleting any one of these. Brave New World's our first one. And let's see what the console message is. On book delete is not defined. Yes, sir.
I just added it where you added book.
Yeah, I just didn't bring that in, did I? Comma, on book delete. And so, thank you for pointing that out. And if I delete, now it's back to working again. Okay, so now what I wanted to do is in our .env, we're not in production, but we are in local. And I'm going to make a variable to factor out our URL. So, so this will be our backend API URL. So I'll say React app API URL. So this is our backend URL. And what is our URL at? It's at backend 3003, localhost 3003. So let's say localhost http :/ localhost 3003. And now we can store this variable once and change it once and then just use it all over the place. So I'm going to copy that. And let's just go to our book list. I'm going to change these single quotes into backticks. And here, this. Yes, Connor?
Would it make more sense to do it as, like the localhost 3003/API, since we're always using /API?
That's up to you.
Okay.
So now to bring that variable in, it's process.env, that's how we're going to access our environment variable. React app API URL, that's our variable name. And then listing of the books. And so all I've changed is the book list. And console process. Oh, we need to import .env. Skipped a step. Something I learned along the way. Anytime you make an environment variable change, like we just did on our front end, we got to reboot. And so I'm going to close my retro Amazon React front end and then rerun the run dev command. And you know what? It's probably not going to work still. I think, yeah, it's still, maybe we have to change our run script to include a .env. So if I go to console, it's still saying process, which is the first word in the command. Process is not recognized. Let me look at my run script to see if I got to bring in the .env file that way. I think that's where, let's see. Okay, I hit a road bump a little bit that is now resolved. The road bump was that create React app and Vite access environment variables differently. And so the command is not process.env like it is with create React app. With Vite, so I did change my variable name, not super picky around variable names. But here, my variable name is now Vite API URL. And in order to access it, notice I'm using an import.meta.env in place of what was process.env. And so that's all that was. And now we can once again access our books, and let me get into the server here. I got a couple instances running. I can log in and get access to our books. So now I need to just finish this off. And what's nice about this is when we change this into deployment, we just need to change it in one place, that production file. And instead of our backend hitting localhost, when we launch it to production, our backend is going to hit our Google Cloud API. Yeah, Connor?
It's still giving me, like, I log in and then it takes me right.
Okay, so now just going to refactor this part of the URL with the same kind of deal here. Import meta. So on any of my Axios calls, which are there and there, and here's an Axios call on navbar. Change those to backticks. And I'll just copy and paste. Okay, I'll close all my components. Look at them one at a time. There's no Axios calls here. Took care of those. Here's one here. took care of that one. All right, so that's refactoring your URL into a .env, and just to kind of test, logging in is still working. Getting our books is still working. And expiring local storage is the next piece. Now Trey hit me up over the weekend, and Trey said he kind of finished. You did that, right, Trey? You got this expiring local storage. And so, do you want to maybe do a screen share and talk about what that takes? Is that cool?
Sure.
So on Discord. All right, 1 second here. Okay, sure.
You can see right?
I can see.
Okay. I thought you just noticed it. So it's on there. Log in. Make sure it's all. Yep. Pretty much same calculation. So now, no hours, just 1 hour expiration. Expiration time, now get time plus no hours, and then does the same math that we have in the back end.
Yep.
Does the same math. Yeah.
So is that's basically 1 hour from now?
Yeah.
Is what that math
Yeah.
resolves to? Okay.
And then since I have my local storage stored inside an object already, I just spread it, and I just have I just add the expiration.
Okay.
Add expiration.
Yep. So we're adding an expiration time in a property in your local storage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then instead of app.jx, under use effects, it just constantly checks like, okay, it just constantly checks. And if it's expired, it removes it, say user to null, and just reloads the page.
So if it's expired, then we remove item, set user to null, and reload the page. Wonderful. So do me a favor, go back to your login form.
Yeah, I need to change it to my whole screen now. Oh, so you can see it right?
Yep.
Okay.
So now we see an expiration value there. Okay. So that's a solution on how to kind of force the user to log out after the expiration. I'll go ahead and bring that in on the project we're doing, but I just wanted to show Trey's implementation. So Trey, there were two things that were useful there. Number one was the math on how to basically get to the 1 hour expiration property. Would you paste that in the general chat?
Okay.
And then also the if statement that you used on use effect.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, and you did notice Trey stored the whole user. I think that's what Atticus was kind of mentioning. Hey, why don't we store the whole user? I'm not doing the whole user right now. I just have a full name, which.
Probably don't want to store the password. Make sure you don't do that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's right. You definitely don't want it. Well, you don't even want your backend sending back the password. And so Um, a little bit different than mine because I'm just doing a string value in my local storage and Trey was doing an object. It's a lot easier to store an object and then you can add a property to the object. I just have a string. You can't add a property to a string.
Could you share your screen?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. I didn't realize I stopped. Right, so this is on a log out, but obviously we're doing a log in. So here's my login form. And here's where we're setting which this would have been a lot easier if I just put this as in an object in the first place. So I do get a response.data, and that data has a full name in it. And so maybe if I do a const user is response.data, and then I store, this is going to require quite a bit of refactoring on my end. User.fullName is that. I'm still, at this point, this would be like a set user. But then that's going to break my nav bar. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to leave mine as is for now. That's a good thing to bring in, but I'm going to get you guys just working. And Trey covered how it can be done, so you can choose to bring that in. Right now, you know, just showing how that's done is good enough for now. Okay? So I'm going to come around and help everyone where they're at, getting yours up and running, and then we're going to talk about this lab.